Among more than 1,000 people pardoned or given reduced sentences is Ross Ulbricht, who founded the Silk Road. He was convicted of running the underground online marketplace that facilitated more than $200 million in illicit transactions using Bitcoin. Well, he was sentenced in 2015 to life in prison.
So what now?
We're going to get in the helicopter.
What's that? Helicopter?
It's the thing that goes like this.
How am I going to get in a helicopter?
Don't worry, Joe. You're going to get in. It's going to take off, fly in our beautiful American sky, and land right by your house.
Sounds good. Where's my house?
You have a beautiful house. Where's your house, Jill? Don't worry, Joe. She's going to take a good care of your house because she's a housewife now.
My housewife?
How's the first lady of my heart?
I'm cold, but fine, thanks.
See, they're starting the helicopter.
Who's getting in that helicopter?
Sir, we're ready for you.
Why do I have to go away?
Joe, don't worry. We'll visit. You can call us anytime.
So if liking men makes you gay, and liking women makes you straight, what does not liking men, but liking women of all types, including trans women, make you?
That means you're gay.
I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
Still, I'd like to thank you, cause now I got the world swinging from my nuts, and damn, it feels good.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do
available.
And homelessness and all that. And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
The full version of the Trump sword dance video can be easily found on my Twitter, by the way, if one were so inclined. But anyways, I'd say this past week has been pretty eventful. In fact, just trying to keep up with everything going on felt like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Trump came out of his corner swinging like a boxer who's decided, fuck a decision, I want a KO. But without a doubt, my favorite thing that happened, the pardons. Sure, there was a lot of pissing and moaning about that, but we're way past giving a fuck about that shit, aren't we? And just the fact alone that the prosecutors refused to turn over any of the Capitol security cam footage to the defense for discovery and possible exculpatory evidence is absolutely prosecutorial misconduct. So I don't even care what they did. And seeing people like Joe Biggs and Enrique Tarrio come out, having received sentences of 18 years and 22 years respectively, it quite literally brought tears to my eyes. As it did the next day when he gave a full and unconditional pardon to Ross Ulbricht, fulfilling a promise that he made when he went to the Libertarian Convention. This was a big deal to a lot of people because this kid got fucked over bad. And all the lies and misinformation out there about him sort of reminds me of Julian Assange when they're trying to say that, oh, people got killed because of the information that he released. And they gave this kid 2 life sentences plus 40 years without the possibility of parole. And more than anything, this case had to do with the fact that he was using Bitcoin on his site. This was back in 2013 when Bitcoin was first getting going. So they tried to make the biggest example possible out of him. But now, that's over. And I sure did get a kick out of seeing CNN's senior legal analyst say that they're letting go of a very dangerous individual.
Bullshit.
and all this, oh, you know, there were 5 overdose deaths linked to his website, yeah, as opposed to the 500,000 or so people that died as a result of what the Sackler family did with Purdue Pharma. You know, putting out OxyContin and lying through their teeth about it not being addictive, which is literally what started the opioid crisis. And they even got found liable in court for this. And what did they get? Prison time? Nope. They paid a $7.5 billion fine out of the hundreds of billions of dollars they made in profits. It would be like robbing a bank and getting $100,000 and then just having to pay a $5,000 fine but getting to keep the other $95,000. And that would never happen. But if you're a pharmaceutical company...
There is a difference somehow.
Which reminds me, did you see how Johnson & Johnson just got FDA approval for their ketamine-derived nasal spray to treat depression? Now, I first came across ketamine back in the 90s when I was going to raves. Of course, we didn't call them raves back then, we just called them parties. In fact, if anybody came around and actually referred to them as raves, we'd be like, oh,
He's a cop.
But my first thought when I saw this story was, oh, what, did they come up with a fucking synthetic version of ketamine so that they could patent it? So I looked into it a little bit, and as it turns out, what they did is split up the ketamine because it comes in 2 molecular forms, the R and the S. So this new patented drug is just only the S, hence the name esketamine. And I had been seeing for years stuff about how they were just now discovering that ketamine can be used to treat depression. I mean, basically they were taking microdoses of it and people were reporting alleviation of their depression symptoms up to months later after just 1 little dose. But because it's been around for so long and the patent ran out, they had to split up the molecules so they could repatent it and make the maximum amount of profit. Because God forbid the American people should be able to take something without the pharmaceutical companies getting their maximum amount of money. And this shit here is fucking hilarious. The exact way Spravato works is not fully understood. That's actually in the fine print for a lot more drugs than people realize. And this, oh, it's the only FDA-approved nasal spray for TRD. What's TRD? Treatment-resistant depression. Well, what is treatment-resistant depression, you might ask? Well, basically, it's a very tactful way of saying that their other treatments don't fucking work. But getting back to the moves that Trump made in his first week, there were so many other things. Pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, ending the Green New Deal, pulling out of the WHO, sending 1,500 troops to the border, pulling the security clearances from the 51 intelligence people that said that Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation, as well as pulling the security clearances for Bolton and Pompeo, and ending their taxpayer-funded security details, as well as the security detail for Fauci. And when I first saw the story about Putin supposedly seeking to have Fauci extradited, you know, as part of a deal to end the Ukraine war, I got real excited for about a minute until I found the fucking source article for this rumor. Anytime you see a story put out by a guy named Baxter Dimitri, it's safe to assume that it's bullshit. And as for the rumor that John McAfee faked his death, oh god, I hope that's true. The authorities never did return his body, you know. And he pulled off some pretty amazing escape acts before, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high, but if this is for real, calling it legendary would be an understatement. And there was also a rumor that got spread around by a lot of people without spending the 2 minutes it would take to actually check if it's true, which is that one of Trump's executive orders put a stop to the $35 a month cap on insulin. The first thing about this is funny is that before Biden even came in, Trump through an executive order had brought down the cost of insulin, and then Biden undid that, only to take credit for the $35 a month cap on insulin that was in the Inflation Reduction Act. And the second thing is that Trump's new executive order doesn't undo that. See the part where it says Biden's bigger healthcare initiatives, such as a $35 monthly cap on insulin, a $2,000 annual out-of-pocket cap on prescription drugs, and Medicare's negotiating drug prices provision, weren't affected by Trump's executive actions Monday. And this is an article from NBC News, not exactly known for being a right-wing propaganda machine. And then there's the executive order on birthright citizenship, which the news is just basically reporting like it completely ends the concept of birthright citizenship. And this is being challenged in the courts, and it'll undoubtedly make it up to the Supreme Court. But what's at issue are the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and the idea that if you come here illegally, you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And it's funny because if you do a Google search for 14th Amendment of the Constitution full text, it leaves out the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Almost like they don't want people to contemplate the meaning of those words. But hey, we'll see what the Supreme Court says. And then on Thursday, Trump gave a speech remotely to the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. And if you didn't happen to catch it, it could pretty much be summed up thusly.
Donald J. Trump.
Thank you. I've given a lot of thought to what I would say to this particular forum should I ever get this chance. So here goes. Fuck you all. You reptilian cocksuckers aren't looking so fucking glib these days, are you? The people around the world are rising up against you, and it's only a matter of time now before you all find out, because you've fucked around for far too long. It's going to be spectacular. My only regret is that I can't be there in person to literally take a shit on some of your heads. But then again, some of you sick assholes might actually be into that.
Okay, so he may have been a bit more diplomatic than that, but that was the general gist of it. At least that was my takeaway. And the speech that Javier Milei gave, the president of Argentina, was really entertaining too. He was there in person and told them all to their face that, you guys lost. We're not gonna be doing the stupid woke shit and the socialist economic policies anymore, that you guys have basically failed. I mean, it was a pretty fire half-hour speech. And then on Friday, Trump stopped in Western North Carolina and was saying some shit about how he's planning on either massively overhauling FEMA or maybe just get rid of the motherfucker. States can have their own emergency response, and the federal government can just help out with money. You don't need fucking federal bureaucrats coming from all over the place to show up and tell you what you can and can't do. And then it was off to California, where as soon as he landed, Governor Psycho Boy was there to greet him. That's what should have happened anyway. But what actually happened is still pretty funny. Trump flew in and then made Newsom stand on the tarmac by himself like a dumbass for 10 minutes before coming off the plane. Then he came down, they had a quick little exchange, and then had a little press gaggle right there on the tarmac before Trump went to survey the damage, and then later had a press conference with a bunch of people. And there were some testy little moments, especially with that dipshit commie mayor of LA.
6 months is no good.
And the number one thing that we are going to do immediately, and you will see this happen, is to clear out the debris. And you know, we're concerned right now over the weekend because of the potential rain, but we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe, and we want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot.
Yes, and they can.
You
and
should
they are
let them
able
do
to,
it, because by the time you hire contractors, it's going to be 2 years.
If a family...
The people are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can.
There's not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And, you know, it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours, and that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract that's going to charge him $25,000 to do his lot. Yeah. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because I looked, I mean, you have a very powerful emergency power, and you can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest.
Or in other words...
Pardon me, but that's bullshit.
To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is for people
to
be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing. And I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them. Everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
I love that, pointing out the fact that, yeah, you should let these people start handling their shit now. Oh, but we have to make sure that they're safe. They want to go clear out the lot on property they own, and they're not allowed to because the government has to make sure that you're safe.
What a bunch of fucking bullshit.
And while that was going on, Pete Hegseth was getting confirmed as Secretary of Defense, despite the fact that Collins, Murkowski, and Bitch McConnell voted no.
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
So now we get to look forward to the big three I've been waiting for, Tulsi, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr. These hearings are going to be a fight, and I can't wait to see it. I also see a fight on the horizon between Trump and the Federal Reserve. You may recall that right after Trump got elected, there was this exchange between Fed Chairman Jerome Powell and a Politico reporter.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
He's an asshole.
And then about 6 weeks later, the Fed announced that even though we said in September we were going to do 4 rate cuts next year, now that the elections happened, we're only going to do 2. And then when Trump got asked about this the other day, he said this.
The interest rates will come down.
You said that you would demand that the interest rates come down.
Well, I would put in a strong statement.
Do you expect the Fed to listen to you?
Yeah.
I love that tone.
Yeah.
And while it's true the Federal Reserve up till now has had basically carte blanche, and technically Trump can't fire Powell, he can push to do a full audit of the Fed. I asked Grok if he could do that with just an executive order, and the answer is nuanced. Technically he could try, but of course that'd get challenged. But he can push for Congress, who absolutely has the authority to do a full audit of the Fed. And I guarantee they definitely don't want that to happen. And of course I gotta mention the executive order declassifying the JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files. People are guesstimating it's gonna take about 3 weeks before we actually see the JFK files, and about a month and a half for RFK and MLK. And while a lot of black pillars out there have put on their turd goggles and are like, oh, well, they're just gonna redact everything like usual. Yeah, I'm sure they will try to pull some kind of shenanigans and do whatever they can to keep the full truth from being known. But personally, I'd rather wait and see how it plays out. Just because you found a way to shit on something does not mean that it deserves to be shat upon. And 1 week in, despite the fact that we haven't yet got a report on the drones, or immediately ended the Ukraine war, I'm not at all disappointed by what I've seen. I'm just waiting to see in which ways the Empire decides to strike back, because you know it's coming. Sláinte.
In this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. I told you, don't fuck with me. 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 You stupid fuck. Look at you now.